Happy Friday. We are Nathaniel and Amy White with the Homemade Family. We're so glad you're here. We are continuing our talk on the hot topic of chores. Woo, so exciting. But you guys, we're not just talking about chores. We are talking about so much deep life stuff that happens. In fact, we just went back and listened to our last week's episode because we couldn't remember how many points of the 9 we had covered. And anyway, when we were listening, we were like, this is so good. This is so good. This is so good. I mean, maybe
we were blowing our own minds.
Maybe we're a little biased, but you guys, if you missed it, please go back and take a listen to last week's episode, which was the first of the Chores series. This is part 2 of the Chores series. Yep. And you can listen anywhere podcasts are found. Search for our Insight Now, the Homemade Family, or you can go on our website, www.thehomemadefamily.com, and click on the link that has all our, it actually just pulls up the YouTube videos, or you can go to YouTube and search The Homemade Family, Nathaniel and Amy White. It was episode number 34 actually last week. So hi, Sandy. So glad to have you.
Woo-hoo. Hey, and pro tip, Amy likes to listen to everything at chipmunk speed, which I'm usually like, my ears can't grasp that stuff, like whatever. But apparently we enunciate clearly enough. She puts it on 2 times speed on YouTube, and we listen through the whole thing super fast, and I caught every word. So
yay, that's fun. So that is how I do it. So last week we really talked about like a lot about the philosophy of chores, like why we do chores, and actually just some of our parenting philosophy. And I'm surprised how many things like can be expressed through chores. This is really great.
It's all just it's a tool.
Yep.
It's a Trojan horse.
It's a Trojan horse. So today we're going to talk about some of the benefits that chores give to our kids and to us too. And so you guys, we had, the 5 little kids, and we didn't really do a lot of chores with them when they were little because I was just trying to survive. And so like pretty much it was, 5 kids in 5 years. I was just trying to make sure everybody was alive. And we had to take a season out where we did begin to teach them some things. But there was kind of a pivotal moment for us where we were listening as a family through the Laura Ingalls Wilder series on audiobook. We loved it. It was so great. I highly recommend it if you haven't listened through that series or read
Little
the
House
books.
on the Prairie.
Little House on the Prairie books, yes.
Yep, all those.
And we were just blown away because there was a part of the series, I think it was actually in Alfonso's family, where his mom and dad left for 14 days to go on a trip. And they left the kids who were like 8, 10, and 12 in charge of the family farm, in charge of the homes, in charge of the animals and everything.
Yeah, it was like the dad came home one day. He's like, hey guys, Mom and I are leaving tomorrow for a couple of weeks. You'll be fine.
Yeah. And it was like, what? How in the world? Like, would I ever leave my 10 and 12 and 8-year-old home alone for 2 weeks? I mean, we're talking, is it even safe to leave them for a couple hours at this point? But it gave us pause that maybe, just maybe, we were not having a high enough of a value for who our kids were and what they were capable of doing.
Right.
And so we decided to...
Because remember, those books really are stories that Louisa May Alcott lived. It's not fiction. Or Laura Ingalls, what did I say?
Louisa May Alcott.
Wrong author. Laura Ingalls Wilder lived. It's more biographical than it is fictional. So
yeah. And so we just said, you know what? I think that we are not having enough value for the capability of our children, and that we need to place a higher honor on who they are and their capabilities and their wisdom. And so we just decided like, hey, we're going to go after this. About the same time, we had one other experience. I know this isn't in our notes, but I'm going to share it real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
Where we were out to dinner with we weren't out to dinner. We were at dinner with John and Amy Clausen of GoFam Ministries. You can look them up, gofam.org, I think it is. And we finished dinner and they said, you know what? All the Clausen kids are going to clean up. And they all jumped up out of their chairs, cleaned the kitchen spotless, food put away, counters wiped down, dishes put away, floor swept, everything. There was no bickering, no fighting, no complaining. It was done with joy. You could even hear the kids laughing. And we were like,
and the whole kitchen was clean without the parents lifting a finger in 10 minutes. Finger.
And we were like, okay, we have some things to learn. Because it was this beautiful and powerful event that their family did together. And so we just decided, you know what, we need to maybe have higher value. That's what I said. Okay. So some of the benefits that chores give our kids is not only does it, get the house clean, but it actually gives our kids a sense of purpose.
Yes.
I'm going to do this and then you can jump into the next part.
Sure.
Nice, because I'm just doing all the talking.
Go for it, babe.
So a few years back, 2-3 years ago, I can't remember what it was. It was summertime. The kids were done with school. And typically I homeschool all through the summer. But I was like, you know what? We need a break. We're just going to take 2 weeks off or whatever. And it was like the first day the kids were really excited to have nothing to do. By the second day, everybody was bored. But by the end of 2 weeks, they were crabby. They were directionless. They were bickering. They were fighting. They were moping about. They were laying on the couches lazy. And I was like, okay.
They're complaining. They're like, what can we do?
Yep.
What should we do, Mom?
So I created a chore chart for them. Mm-hmm. Everybody had, their name in these little boxes and the things that they needed to accomplish that day before they could go off and do anything else. And I tell you, my kids rejoiced. They were so excited. Every day they'd jump up and they'd go to the chore chart and they'd, work through the things that they had to get done. And they actually thanked me for giving them purpose and direction.
No exaggeration.
They wanted to know what to do. Yeah. So you guys, this might get a little bit soapboxy for us, but
this first point,
all the rest are not going to be soapboxy, but this one might, because I really feel like we don't have enough value for our young people. I guess I'm just going to keep talking. I'm sorry. You keep smiling and pretty over there.
I'll just look pretty.
You just look pretty. So my kids are 14, 13, and 12. My oldest 3 right now. And we've been trying to find like a job for my 14 and 13-year-old. When I was 13, I was working at Burger King, getting paid $3.10 an hour. It was great. But our kids nowadays, like the pull of culture and society has said that we need to let kids be kids. Like we can't give them, there's all these child labor laws, there's rules and structures around who can work, when can they work, and
what kinds of jobs they're allowed to do.
And I know that there's some wisdom in that, but at the same time, I feel like part of the problem with culture and society today, why our young people are rioting and burning down buildings, or why they're dealing with depression and struggling and anxiety, is because we've said, you don't have enough value. You're just a kid. You go do kid things. And we're not going to give you purpose and structure and actually invite you into adulthood. Not yet. Now, do you want to jump on that a little bit?
Yeah. So I was just seeing this morning. Suicide is the 3rd leading cause of death in America for people ages 10 to 24. It's the 3rd leading cause of people ages 10 to 24. So mainly we're talking teenagers there. So if that's that big of a deal, and on top of the suicide, that's the full extreme of depression, anxiety, stress, all those kinds of things. I mean, the stereotypical teenager is like sullen, removed, isolated. They only want to be with friends, or they want to be by themselves in their bedroom listening to either sexualized music or depressing music or whatever, all those kinds of things. And it's all very shallow type stuff. And it's like, is that really all the value that we have for our teenagers? Is that really all that we see that they could contribute? And again, going back to Amy's example of Little House on the Prairie, we started thinking about this, and it wasn't just Little House on the Prairie. It's all of human history valued the teenage years more than we do now. And across all cultures that I've been able to study, I mean, you got to realize and put this in perspective that life expectancy for most of human history has capped out around 50 years old. I mean, if you became a grandparent, probably, first of all, you did that in your 40s, you became a grandparent, but also you didn't expect to see a 3rd generation. You never did. And so if you were only going to live to 50, you needed to be prepared to start life earlier than we do now. And so, I mean, you needed to be ready to inherit the family farm at 20. You needed to be you needed to be ready and prepared to become a king at 20. You didn't have room to be still figuring life out. And what do I want to be when I grow up until I'm 30 or 35, or be living in your parents' house till you're 34, or whatever we're commonly seeing now. I mean, even I saw something, I wish I'd have remembered the details more specifically, but I mean, other than Benjamin Franklin, I think the average age, he's the real old outlier, but the signers of the Declaration of Independence were in their 20s and 30s, like early 30s. I think Thomas Jefferson, he wrote it at the age of 33. So if he's considered a leader in the group at the age of 33, then how old is the rest of the group?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like the disciples were teenagers. How many kings in the Bible were teens when they took over? There's other rulers in the nations, like throughout all of history, that were in their teens. And even the Revolutionary War, I think it had a cutoff of age 16, but there were 12, 13, 14-year-olds fighting because they had passion and they had ability and they had skills and they had all these things because we considered them adults at a younger age because we put value on who they were and responsibility. Yeah. I remember even a testimony from my own life is at 13, I was dealing with severe depression and in fact, cutting and doing all these things. And my mom was like, you know what, Amy, I think that you're spending a little too much time alone and thinking about yourself. And here's how we're going to fix this. We're going to actually put you to work and have you serve other people. And I began serving in the baby nursery at church. I got a job. And once I did that, it gave me a sense of purpose and contribution to society that took all the focus off of myself. My dad says, man was made to work. And when a man doesn't work and provide for his family, like it's depressing because we were created for work and for a purpose. And so as we call on our kids and we give them responsibility, even from a young age, we just got done helping my niece move. She's got a 2-year-old daughter, and that little 2-year-old was like seeing us load the truck, and she like picked up this thing and she just started like throwing things in the truck, and it was so cute because
nobody told her to. She just wanted to be included.
They want to be included. They want to help. So chores actually give our kids a sense of purpose and belonging.
Right.
And
Fisher Price knew this once upon a time. That's why there are bubble mowers.
Right?
Right.
Because the little kids want to do it. Okay. Not only does it give themselves a sense of purpose, it gives them a sense of belonging to something bigger than themselves.
Yeah.
Now, I tell my kids all the time, we're family and family helps. Family shows up for each other. I also tell them.
Hence why we were helping our niece move.
Yes.
All of us, because we show up, because that's what family does.
Actually, this is one more point under giving them purpose, is that I tell my kids that I actually can't do everything and that they're so important to me because I need help. And when they help, I actually build them up as like heroes for helping mom do the stuff, right? Especially when they're younger. It's like if I acknowledge that I actually can't manage everything all by myself, and that I need them to help me, then that gives them a sense of purpose and a sense of heroism that they were able to do something of value that served another person.
Just a little note on that. I remember a leadership mentor of mine taught me once upon a time. He said, Nathaniel, everyone needs to know 3 things. They need to know that they are wanted, needed, and loved. Everybody needs to know they're wanted, needed, and loved. And here's the thing. Chores can help with that middle part, the needed. It's not, again, Amy and I, real similar background stories when it comes to chores. Like my dad would try to make chores sound fun. Like, okay, you're going to go crush all the aluminum cans in the garage. It's a can stomping party, right? Like that's what dads do. Like, oh, it's a can stomping party. My brother and I, we'd go out into the garage and we'd spend the entire time. It was a can stomping complaining party. That's all it was. It was like grumbling and complaining, like, oh, we're just doing this because dad doesn't want to, or like whatever, we had all kinds of negativity about our chores. We had no vision for how it was actually helping or benefiting or doing anything productive. But I totally got sidetracked where I was going with that. But I think, where did I start that whole tangent?
It's that sense of purpose.
The sense of purpose, the sense of importance, the sense of belonging.
I think maybe where you were going to go was, but tying it back to, like, hey, no, this is actually contributing to something bigger than yourself.
That you are contributing to something bigger than yourself, that you are needed. That's where I was saying that you wanted, needed, loved. That there are all kinds of other things in parenting and family that we can help our kids know that they are wanted or loved. But responsibility is really the only area that you can get at that itch that they innately have, that they are needed.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We can't do this without you. You are needed. That's right. That's so good. Okay. So one, it gives them a sense of purpose. Two, they are something bigger. They are part of something bigger than themselves. Every single person wants to be a part of community, something bigger than themselves. It ties really closely with the purpose, but we actually are made to be connected to each other, to be part of something bigger than ourselves. We're part of the kingdom of God. We're part of our community. We're part of this. We're part of that. And doing chores actually helps us to be part of something bigger than ourselves. This is where we tie in that, if we say it all the time, we're family, and family shows up for each other. If you choose to sit out, then the whole family suffers. If you don't bring your strength to the table, then all the rest of us feel a sense of lack and a sense of incompleteness. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this, but we had 5 kids real fast. And even now, when one of our kids goes on a sleepover or they're gone for a day, we feel the lack of their presence in the home. And we tell them about that. Like, man, I could tell that, I don't think that you personally carry that much energy or that much, structure or whatever. But when they go, you feel their absence. And so we really try to build that in with conversation in the middle of chores too. Like, hey, we're family, so we're going to do this together, a laundry folding party or...
And we do things to make it fun. We'll get the portable Bluetooth speaker or at least a phone, and we've got a YouTube, song list that's going, and people are singing along, and people are... it turns into a karaoke clothes folding party, and we get through it, and it is fun. We do things to add the spoonful of sugar that makes the medicine go down, like Mary Poppins taught everybody. So, we do those things, but it's still something that we have everyone do together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we definitely make it to be family oriented while we do some of those bigger chores that we do together. In fact, we used to do it to the VeggieTales songs. Now we've grown up and we do it to other songs, but it's something then that our kids are like, this is actually going to be a good time because we're all going to, sing these songs and do this stuff. And sometimes, we throw underwear or stick it on our head or whatever, but we make it to be fun, to make it family, to make it something that brings connection in life.
Not just gets the job done.
Not just gets the job done.
Which all ties back to they're part of something bigger than themselves. Something that like Amy says frequently to the kids, I need you. Mm-hmm. I need you.
And not in a way that puts weight or shame on them, but in a way that encourages them so that they know
that they're significant, and important and needed. Yeah. And so it's just kind of one example of that. This isn't directly with chores, but it applies to I need you. Hands down, the most commonly crazy part of our day is bedtime. I think every parent probably can relate with that. And with 5 of our kids all in okay, we're going to gather in our upstairs hallway, and we're going to try to have a little structured time, even if that's just gathering to pray together and give some hugs, and we go to bed. We usually do a devotion as well. But even if that's all it is, it's like trying to get the kids to go from 1,000 miles an hour down to at least 3 miles an hour, maybe not a full stop, but at least hold still mostly, to bring the energy down so that we can do something productive and go in a single direction. And it was like over and over and over and over and over, so many issues with this for so long. One night I got this idea. I took all the kids down to the basement and I had them lay down ankles to hands of kind of in a row, just make a train. And they laid down grabbing onto the ankles of the person in front of them. And I had the person in the front stand up so that then the person behind them is grabbing their ankles. And I was like, okay, pull everybody across the room. And of course they can't do it. They can't drag everyone across the floor. And I had them all take turns being the lead engine of the train. And of course, nobody could drag the entire family across the floor. And so we went back upstairs and I said, hey, if we just all went down there and we were all standing on our feet, and I said, okay, run to the other end of the room, could you all do it very easily? And they're like, yeah, that'd be easy. I'm like, but could any of you drag the entire family across the floor to the other side of the room? They're like, no, we couldn't. I said, that's how I feel at bedtime. I feel like I'm trying to drag you all where we're trying to go. And if you guys would all just come with me, it would be easy and painless. All of a sudden, the light bulbs went on. They realized how important and influential they each were. And they all started to choose to come along. It's needed reminders. It's needed continued training. It's needed other reinforcement. But that was a turning point where the light bulb went on for them, that they were important and needed. And that's actually then coming back to chores, something that I will often say to them. I will say when they start complaining about having chores or responsibilities or whatever, I will say to them, please don't complain about being important to our family. You are doing something important. You are doing something that benefits us. You are doing something that does meaningful service for us, that actually is impactful and important. So please don't complain about being important.
Mm-hmm. Gonna hit this point.
Sure. So then the next point says, when our kids do something we need them to do, they feel how meaningful it was. And this is something that we kind of help them notice that they're feeling it. But, you know, when they do something, when they do engage, when we have taken the whole family and gone and helped people move, which we have done a lot of times, then we will always have conversations afterwards, you know, whether that's a big thing like helping families move, or whether that's a smaller thing, a day of projects around the house. Like, hey, I'm so thankful. Ezra did such a great job. When you did this, Ezra, that made such a big difference for us today. Thank you so much. The way that you engaged and you kept coming back. How can I help? How can I help? How can I help? What else can I carry? What else can I do? What's the next thing on the list? The way that you just managed that on your own and you just did it. You didn't need driven. That was such a huge help. Thank you so much. That made a big difference in our day. And all of a sudden, you know, their good choices to do something in service to the family, they're feeling the meaningfulness of it. And it like, man, I am a part of something and I can make a difference. Do you know what that does inside a person when all of a sudden they realize I'm powerful, I'm capable, I can make a difference, I am a meaningful member of this group.
Yeah, that's so good. And I think, you know, we like to say life is PG, which is parental guidance. Like our kids aren't going to automatically get these things, but when we know it and we start speaking it over them, like, hey, you know, you are part of something bigger than yourself. Hey, this is, you know, part of the purpose on your life is God made you to work. And we start saying those things on purpose to our kids and drawing them out in the middle of the chores, in the middle of the project. That really does something inside of them. So make sure that you're communicating these things. So benefits that chores give, 1, gives them a sense of purpose. 2, builds connection. And 3, it builds character. Because if you caught from Nathaniel's story that while he was, it it wasn't a can stomping party. It was a can stomping complaining party. So
Not good character.
not good character. Obviously, all of us in life have things that we don't like to do or we don't want to do. And but when we do chores that we don't want to do, and especially if there's grumbling and complaining, this is a wonderful, wonderful place to help your kids build character and to tie it to God, to scripture, to Jesus, to the Bible, to the rest of life. Because the Bible says that we should work as if unto God and not to man. So especially like if our kids are like, that's so-and-so's chore, that's not my chore. We're saying, yeah, but first of all, we're family. We show up for each other. Second of all, we serve when there's a need. But third, you're going to work unto God and not just unto man, because he sees the work and he's so faithful to repay. And, you know, sometimes they're grumbling because the job is hard. Again, all of us are going to face hard things in life. And we say this, I understand the job is hard, but you know what? You're even stronger than this job is hard, you know?
Which how many of us need to know that? Like, you're gonna go through stuff that's hard.
That's hard.
You're gonna. And if you don't know, you know, this is actually out of Proverbs, but it's the Nathanielized version. This is the authorized Nathaniel version of paraphrase of this Proverbs. But what I say to the kids sometimes in this is, if you're only strong enough to do easy stuff, then how strong are you really? And it's just kind of a good gut check that if you're just going to keep saying that's too hard, that's too hard, that's too hard, that's too hard, and you only stay in what's comfortable and you only stay in what's easy for you and you only stay with what you're used to, then it actually doesn't speak much to how strong you actually are or how capable you actually are. Maybe it is if that's at a very high level, you know, but when we're talking about raising our kids and they're like, I can't pick up my toys, it's too hard. And we're like, actually, you got them all out. You are fully capable of putting them back away. Annalie is saying, preach, Nathaniel. Yes. Thank you, Annalie. We're looking forward to seeing you in just about a month, less than a month.
Yeah.
About a month. Somewhere. Yes.
All right.
Anyway, so for example, recently we were doing a job for some friends of ours. They run a business and their printer wasn't working. And so they couldn't print onto some bags. They needed stickers put on bags that product was going to go into. And it was 2,000 bags and 2,000 stickers, 4,000 stickers actually, because they needed one front and they needed one back. And so they're like, here, we'll pay you, do this. You got family, like just make it your afternoon project, do it for a couple of hours. It was a lot bigger than we thought it was going to be.
It ended up taking about 19 man hours.
19 man hours
to
complete the project. So it was harder than we expected. However, it became a great opportunity then to have these conversations with our kids. Like, no, it doesn't matter. The payment isn't what matters. The difficulty isn't what matters. The character we demonstrate is what matters. And so we serve joyfully. We do the job well. We put our best effort into it. We go after it and we get it done. And we make sure we see it through to completion, because that's what good character looks like.
The good news is that complaining doesn't last forever, because the chores, as they learn them, you know, if you get them right when they're kids, like it just becomes habit and game and something that you do. Pick up your toys before we eat dinner, pick up your toys before we go to bed. You know, you can actually build this so that it just becomes a life habit, so that the kids aren't even thinking about it. They're just doing it without thinking. The skills of cleaning up dinner and things like that, and folding laundry becomes this joyful habit that happens, then it doesn't end up being that complaining. But when it does come with complaining, or not wanting to do it because it's somebody else's job, that's the great time to really pull in the Bible and how Jesus served, how we serve. We often talk about how much we do, and that we do it without complaining, and that we do it because we serve in love, and that God sees our service and it actually brings promotion. And then
Right.
building character too. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't know. I think sometimes people have a mindset like, oh, I can't tell people the things that I do to serve, or I lose my reward or something. It's like, yeah, but if you don't actually tell your kids, these are the things I do on my list, isn't my list bigger than yours? Like I don't care how many chores you give your kids, they're not doing more than you do, almost guaranteed, And so it really is this, hey, yeah, I know I'm asking these things of you or requiring these things of you, but this is what I'm doing. And they can see this is what you're doing because you love them. And this is the contribution you're making into their lives. And they can then begin to see like, oh, this isn't just stuff mom does. This is stuff mom or dad do because they love me. This is a meaningful contribution they're making in my life. This is a way that they're serving me and loving me. And it changes the dynamic of those things as well.
Yeah. And sometimes we'll even just point that out directly. I do know we need to wrap up here, and we'll catch the rest of our points next time. But oftentimes, especially because I'm an acts of service love language, I will point out like, hey, do you see what I'm doing? I just want you to know I'm doing this because I love you, and then they begin to see these things and they say, like, hey, I just want you to know, mom, I'm doing this because I love you, and it really does become this way that they can tangibly learn to love on each other. And we call that out and we give honor to it. And so it helps build their character when they have to do tough stuff and when they have to learn to do things that they don't like, because everybody has to do things they don't like in life. So we're just setting them up for future success when they get into situations that nobody wants to deal with, like who's going to clean up the throw up or scoop